The forbidden knowledge. In the ancient world, human society advanced at a staggering pace. Weapons of war, the complex science of the stars, the art of cosmetics, and the manipulation of hidden metals all seemed to emerge across civilizations. But one ancient and mysterious text makes a striking claim about how we actually acquired these advanced skills. According to the Book of Enoch, human beings did not simply discover these arts through their own ingenuity. They were taught by a group of heavenly beings known as the Watchers. What exactly was this forbidden knowledge, and why did the author of this ancient text believe that learning it ultimately condemned humanity? Most readers are familiar with the brief and mysterious story found in the Book of Genesis. Chapter 6 mentions the sons of God who came down to earth and had children with human women, leading to the birth of the mighty Nephilim. It is a short, enigmatic passage that leaves almost everything completely unexplained. But the Book of Enoch, a highly influential Jewish text written centuries before the birth of Jesus, expands this brief mention into a massive and tragic epic narrative. It claims that exactly 200 angelic beings descended upon the peak of Mount Hermon. They bound themselves by a mutual oath, led by imposing figures with names like Semjaza and Azazel. While later traditions often focus entirely on the Watchers taking human wives, the Book of Enoch introduces another, equally destructive crime. They revealed the eternal secrets of heaven to mortal men and women. We might immediately imagine that these secrets were dark magical spells or forbidden spiritual truths. But the text provides a very specific, almost technical list of what was taught. The Watcher named Azazel taught humanity how to make swords, knives, shields, and breastplates. He introduced them to the hidden metals of the earth and the art of working them into weapons. But he also taught them how to make bracelets, ornaments, and the use of antimony for beautifying the eyelids. Another Watcher, Semjaza, taught ancient spells and the cutting of roots. Hermione taught how to break those spells. Arakiel taught astrology, and Kokabel taught the signs of the stars. When we look at this extensive list today, a massive contradiction stands out immediately. Apart from the specific mentions of spells, almost everything the Watchers supposedly taught sounds exactly like the foundational building blocks of human civilization. Metallurgy, astronomy, early medicine, and personal adornment are the very things that built ancient empires. So why does the Book of Enoch treat the invention of swords and cosmetics as a catastrophic cosmic rebellion? This contradiction leads us directly into the heart of an ancient theological debate. One interpretation suggests that the Jewish author of Enoch was looking directly at the surrounding pagan empires. The Babylonians, the Greeks, and the Egyptians were undisputed masters of these specific arts. By attributing the origins of their military technology and cultural wealth to fallen angels, the author was making a profound statement. The military might and seductive wealth of the pagan world were not signs of divine favor or human brilliance. They were the direct result of demonic corruption. But another group of ancient readers understood the text far more literally. For them, the spiritual realm and the physical realm had strictly defined, impenetrable boundaries. The angels belonged to the heavens, and humanity belonged to the earth. The knowledge possessed by the Watchers was not necessarily evil in itself, but it was strictly forbidden for human hands. Humanity lacked the moral maturity to handle such immense power. Azazel is heavily singled out in the text as the primary source of this specific corruption. Chapter 8 specifically states that the whole earth has been corrupted through the works that were taught by Azazel. This is a crucial historical detail. The text does not blame humanity alone for the immense violence that filled the earth before the Great Flood. It places a significant portion of the blame squarely on the shoulders of these rebellious angels who handed advanced technology to a vulnerable species. The sword allowed for mass murder on an unprecedented scale. The shields allowed for organized, endless warfare. Humanity was violently thrust from a simpler existence into an age of iron and blood. The text describes a heartbreaking consequence. As men perished under this new violence, they cried out, and their cry went up to heaven. The idea that advanced knowledge has a dark, corrupting origin echoes in many ancient cultures, but Enoch frames it as a legal indictment against spiritual beings who broke the fundamental laws of creation. Yet, if this text offers such a detailed explanation for human evil, we must ask a difficult question. Why was this vivid account ultimately rejected by most Christian traditions? Continuo para approxima parte dois. But the manuscript itself tells only part of the story. To understand how this narrative was processed by early believers, we must look at how the early church and ancient scholars evaluated these extraordinary claims. The available evidence demonstrates that the Book of Enoch was not simply an obscure text. For several centuries, it was widely read, deeply respected, and quoted by prominent Christian theologians. Authors like Clement of Alexandria, Tertullian, and Origen were intimately familiar with the story of the Watchers. In fact, Tertullian explicitly argued that the text should be considered sacred scripture. He believed it was rejected by the Jewish community primarily because it contained clear prophecies pointing toward Jesus Christ. The modern New Testament itself contains an undeniable connection to this tradition. The Epistle of Jude, in verses 14 and 15, directly quotes the Book of Enoch as a prophetic source. Jude writes that Enoch, the seventh from Adam, prophesied about the Lord coming with 10,000s of his holy ones to execute judgment. Furthermore, the second epistle of Peter and the Book of Revelation contain vivid imagery of angels being bound in chains of darkness under the earth. These descriptions align perfectly with the specific punishment of the Watchers outlined in the Enochian literature. Therefore, historians agree that the earliest Christian communities treated this narrative with immense gravity. Despite this initial widespread popularity, a major shift occurred during the 4th century. As the Christian Church began to officially standardize the biblical canon, influential leaders like Athanasius and Jerome expressed severe doubts about the text. Their main objections centered on the concept of authorship. Because the book was written long after the historical Enoch had lived, it was classified as pseudepigrapha, meaning a text written under a false name. Church councils determined that while the text contained true theological insights, it could not be guaranteed as an authentic, divinely inspired historical document. Gradually, the Book of Enoch disappeared from Western and Eastern European Bibles. For over 1,000 years, it was considered entirely lost to history. It became a myth within Christian history, a forgotten scroll that survived only in references found in ancient theological commentaries. It was not until the late 18th century that travelers discovered that the text had actually been meticulously preserved. The Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church had never removed the book. For them, Enoch remained an integral part of their Old Testament canon, proving that the text was never entirely destroyed by a single monolithic authority. The ultimate rediscovery of the text occurred in 1947 with the finding of the Dead Sea Scrolls in the caves of Qumran. Archaeologists recovered multiple Aramaic fragments of the Book of Enoch, mixed directly with the oldest surviving copies of canonical books like Isaiah and Genesis. This archaeological fact proved beyond any doubt that the story of the Watchers was a central component of Jewish thought during the Second Temple period. The community at Qumran valued these specific texts because they provided a comprehensive explanation for the presence of evil and suffering in the world. When we analyze the historical facts, we see a fascinating contrast between different religious traditions. Catholic, Eastern Orthodox, and Protestant churches eventually excluded the text because they prioritized apostolic origin and verified authorship. In contrast, the Ethiopian tradition prioritized the antiquity of the text and its alignment with their theological heritage. What remains completely certain is that the Book of Enoch was not hidden away in a secret archive by a vast conspiracy. It was excluded through an open, centuries-long debate about what truly constituted inspired scripture. But this leaves us with an enduring mystery. If the text explains human advancement as demonic corruption, how do modern scholars interpret this forbidden knowledge today? Continuo para a próxima parte tres? Today, modern scholars and historians analyze the Book of Enoch not just as a religious text, but as a profound piece of ancient literature. When we look at the forbidden knowledge taught by the Watchers, one hypothesis suggests a striking parallel with Greek mythology. The story of Azazel bringing metallurgy and weapons to humanity closely mirrors the legend of Prometheus, the titan who stole fire from the gods to give to mankind. But while Greek tradition celebrated Prometheus as a hero of civilization, the Jewish author of Enoch viewed this transfer of celestial power as an absolute disaster. The power to reshape the earth and manipulate its elements was seen as an overstepping of natural boundaries. Another major interpretation argues that the text was actually a sophisticated political critique. During the centuries before the birth of Jesus, the Jewish people were heavily oppressed by foreign empires, particularly the Greeks following the conquests of Alexander the Great. These Hellenistic armies were characterized by their massive use of advanced swords, heavily armored soldiers, and a culture that prized wealth and personal adornment. Some historians interpret the story of the Watchers as a theological protest against these specific pagan rulers. By claiming that Greek weapons and cosmetics were originally invented by fallen angels, the author was telling his people that the dominant global culture was literally born from demonic rebellion. In addition to warfare, the knowledge of astrology and the cutting of roots deserves careful attention. Barakil and Kokabiel taught the reading of the stars, while others introduced the mixing of spells. In the ancient Near East, reading the stars was not simply a scientific observation. It was the foundation of imperial religion, used by kings to declare wars and assert their authority. The manipulation of roots and herbs was often tied to pagan rituals and the casting of fatal curses. By attributing these practices to the Watchers, the text establishes a rigid boundary. It warns ancient believers that attempting to force the universe to reveal its hidden future or bend to human will through magic is an imitation of a fallen angel. The faithful were expected to trust divine providence, not the forbidden signs of the zodiac. However, the mystery of the Watchers has recently been distorted by modern internet theories. Many popular claims argue that this detailed list of advanced technology proves that the beings described in Enoch were actually ancient extraterrestrial visitors. They claim that early humans could not have invented metallurgy or astronomy on their own. But this popular claim goes much further than the historical sources allow. What the archaeological evidence actually supports is that humanity developed these skills gradually over thousands of years across different continents. The Book of Enoch is not a literal historical record of alien intervention. It is an intricate theological masterpiece trying to explain why humanity consistently uses its brilliance to invent new ways to destroy itself. What we can say with absolute confidence is that the Book of Enoch provides a unique and powerful perspective on the origin of evil. In the canonical Book of Genesis, the fall of humanity rests entirely on Adam and Eve in the garden. But in the Enochian tradition, the corruption of the world is a shared tragedy. Human beings were tempted and pushed toward violence by powerful spiritual entities who abandoned their heavenly stations. The forbidden knowledge of the Watchers represents a profound truth about the human condition. Knowledge and technology, without moral restraint, inevitably lead to suffering, warfare, and devastation. Ultimately, the Book of Enoch was not removed from Bibles to hide the truth about forbidden ancient technology. It was marginalized because early church leaders required documents that could be directly traced to the original apostles or prophets. Yet, the core message of the Watchers remains incredibly relevant today. We live in a world that continues to forge new weapons, manipulate nature, and unlock the deepest secrets of the universe. The ancient warning of Enoch suggests that technological advancement alone does not equal salvation, and that some power carries a terrible cost. But the story of the Watchers is only the beginning of this ancient cosmic drama. When these fallen angels descended and taught humanity the arts of war, they also brought forth a terrifying new generation known as the Nephilim. Who were these giants mentioned in Genesis, and what exactly happened to them when the floodwaters finally rose? If you would like our next investigation to focus on the true historical and biblical evidence behind the Nephilim, leave the word Nephilim in the comments below.